Last night, TVNZ's Sunday programme took a hard look at head injuries in rugby in particular. They spoke to former All Blacks Jeff Auld, who now suffers from dementia, and Ben Afiaki, who retired from the game at age 27 after failing to recover from a blow to the head suffered in a Super Rugby game. Head knocks and concussions in sport have been linked to a number of conditions and illnesses, but the impact on our grey matter is still very much a grey area. It's an area where there's still much to learn, and one person trying to find out more is Helen Murray, Neuroscientist at the University of Auckland Centre for Brain Research. She joins us now. Morena.
Morena.
How are you going? How's the ice hockey going?
The ice hockey is exciting.
Yeah.
We've been able to play this year, but we're looking forward to doing more international stuff next year.
Now, you obviously captain New Zealand's women's side, and you've been in a training camp recently?
Yes, we had a training camp on Queen's birthday weekend, which was an amazing opportunity to get all the girls together for the first time in about a year. So
fantastic.
Yeah, great.
Well, we wish you all the very, very best. Ice hockey, it's a good place to start because ice hockey and brain injuries go hand in hand, and there's been a lot of research in this space. CTE is what we now know, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, should I say. What is it?
It's a degenerative brain condition, which has been associated with repetitive head injury in sport and also in other contexts as well. And what we know about it from looking at brains is that it starts with these microscopic lesions that form and progress and grow over time and eventually cause dementia.
How do they start? How are these lesions caused? Are they caused from the head knock itself?
That is one of the big questions we need to answer, and that's one of the questions that I think our research is going to try and tap into now, is really digging into how this disease actually works.
Last night's Sunday program looked at rugby in particular. Chris Nowinski, who is a renowned researcher in this space, American researcher who's done a lot of work with NFL players, American football players. They've studied brains of the deceased, and of 111 brains they studied first up, and 110 of those brains were signs of CTE. He said last night on the show, and I'll quote this to you, Helen, "I don't think there are serious scientists anymore who question the relationship between thousands of head impacts in sport and this disease, chronic traumatic encephalopathy." That was then put to Mark Robinson, CEO of New Zealand Rugby, said, "Does New Zealand Rugby accept the link?" And Mark Robinson said, "It's simply too early. We need to do more research into this area." We've got a researcher saying, "We're in no doubt." You've got the CEO of New Zealand Rugby saying, "More research required." As a professional, where do you sit?
I think they're both right. I think that there is a lot of evidence which suggests that repetitive head injury contributes to CTE, and we need to do more research. We need to understand this disease more so that we can diagnose in living people as well as after they've passed away.
You bring up a really good point, because there is no test for CTE in the living brain. There's no way scientists can look at you right now, or me for instance, or Indira for that matter, and say you have signs of CTE. They can say you have signs of dementia. Are we talking about two very separate issues here, dementia and CTE?
So dementia is really an umbrella term for cognitive decline. Dementia can be caused by a range of different diseases. So Alzheimer's disease is one type of dementia, frontotemporal dementia is another type, and CTE is another type. So they're different diseases with different biological underpinnings in our brain, and they have some similarities, but they also have a lot of unique features, and that is what we don't know yet about CTE, is what is unique about the pathology in the brain in CTE compared to these other dementias.
How do you get enough brains?
Yeah,
I know it sounds morbid, sorry, but I'm just going to be blunt. How do you get the brains required for your research?
It comes down to, I think, making people aware that we're doing this research, and people are more than willing to contribute to future generations having a healthy brain aging. And so we have just recently launched the Sports Brain Bank Initiative as part of the Neurological Foundation Human Brain Bank at the University of Auckland. So now we are accepting donations from former sports people who have had repetitive head injury so that we can study this disease in New Zealand.
It's not just a sports issue. Concussion in the workplace via accident, not just because you've played a contact sport. So how widespread do you think these issues could be within our society? Last night there were some professionals interviewed in that Sunday story said we've got a silent epidemic here. Do you think it's as serious as that, concussive related illnesses?
I think it is definitely a silent situation. I think not many people know that their symptoms could be related to head injury and that it could come from a variety of different contexts. contexts. So yeah, we need to understand this more, and that really comes with being able to identify it.
In the sports space, and going back to the original point, you play ice hockey, it's a contact sport, it's a little less violent than perhaps it once was, and rugby is a contact sport, it's a collision sport as it's known these days, as is rugby league. These are the sports that we know well. How do you mitigate for head knocks in contact sports, and are there any things that people can do to be more aware of the risks?
I think that's the first thing, is understanding the risk and thinking about our brain health in a long-term context, so that if things do happen in a sport or in a game, that you come off and you think, what does this mean for me in the long term? And then you stay off until you're healthy and you're cleared to go back.
Do you think we've got it right now with stand-down periods and around how we're approaching people who have had a concussion or a serious head knock?
I think we're moving in the right direction. There's always more work to do to make sports safe, and I think we're doing the best we can at the moment, and yeah, keep working with the research.
Yeah, well, I wish you all the best. I know it's really important research, Helen. Best with the hockey and best with the brains. Helen Murray from the University of Auckland, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.